want to ask you something, Nara. Have you ever walked into your room, felt suddenly sad, and had no idea why?
Yes, I have. I think that happens to many people. They just do not know why. And that is exactly what we are talking about today. Hello, wonderful English learners. Welcome back to Nara Speak English. I am Nara.
And I am Ethan. We are really happy you are here with us.
Today, we are going to explore our emotions, why they sometimes change without warning, and how we can understand them instead of letting them control us.
I think almost everyone has experienced that feeling at least once. One moment everything seems fine, and the next, something feels different.
Exactly. The interesting question is not, why am I feeling this? The interesting question is, what is this feeling trying to tell me?
Maybe that is where many people make a mistake. They immediately think, something must be wrong with me.
I used to think the same thing. But emotions are not always signs that something is wrong. Sometimes they are simply messages.
Messages? I like that idea. It makes emotions sound less frightening.
Exactly. Think about stress. Your mind might be telling you, you need a break. Think about loneliness. Maybe it is reminding you to connect with someone.
So, instead of fighting every emotion, maybe we should listen to it first.
I believe so. Not every emotion should control our actions, but every emotion deserves our attention.
That is a big difference. Listening is not the same as obeying.
Exactly. And understanding that difference can completely change the way we deal with our emotions.
I wonder if we sometimes misunderstand our emotions. Maybe we think they appear for no reason, when there's actually a reason we have not noticed yet.
I think you are right. Our emotions usually do not arrive out of nowhere. They often build up quietly, little by little.
So, one difficult day might not affect us, but 10 difficult days in a row probably will.
Exactly. Stress works like that. It grows so slowly that we hardly notice it until one day it finally catches up with us.
That explains why small things sometimes make us react so strongly. The small thing is not the real reason. It is simply the last drop.
I like that comparison. Sometimes the emotion is not about the moment. It is about everything that happened before the moment.
Do you think we spend enough time trying to understand our emotions, or do we usually try to escape them?
I think many people try to escape them. We distract ourselves. We pick up our phones, turn on the television, or keep ourselves busy. Anything so we do not have to sit with our feelings.
That is true. Being busy can feel easier than being honest with ourselves.
Exactly. But avoiding an emotion does not make it disappear. Very often, it simply waits.
And then, it comes back later, sometimes even stronger than before.
Yes, that is why understanding your emotions is so important. When you stop running away, you give yourself the chance to grow.
I like that. Maybe courage is not pretending to be happy all the time. Maybe courage is being honest about how we really feel.
I could not agree more. And that honesty is often the first step toward feeling better.
There is something else I've noticed. We often say, I am angry, or I am anxious, almost as if that emotion becomes our identity.
That is such an interesting point. But maybe a better way to think about it is, I am feeling angry, or I am feeling anxious.
Just changing one word changes the whole meaning.
Exactly. Because emotions come and go. They are temporary. They are not who we are.
I have never thought about it like that. If an emotion is temporary, then I do not have to believe it will last forever.
That is right. Every emotion has something to teach us, but every emotion also passes. No feeling stays the same forever.
I think remembering that can be very comforting, especially on difficult days.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best thing you can tell yourself is, this feeling will not last forever. And many times, that simple reminder is enough to give you hope.
Do you think we should always trust our emotions?
That is a great question. I think we should always listen to them, but we should not always follow them.
What is the difference? Imagine you are angry. Your emotion is real. You should not ignore it. but that does not mean you should immediately react.
So there is a difference between feeling something and acting on it.
Exactly. Sometimes the best response is to pause. Take a deep breath. Give yourself a little time. Then decide what to do.
I like that idea because when emotions are very strong, we do not always think clearly.
That is true. A few quiet minutes can completely change the way we see a situation.
I think everyone has said something they regretted simply because they reacted too quickly.
I know I have. That is why learning to pause can be one of the most powerful habits we ever develop.
Maybe self-control is not about hiding our emotions. Maybe it is about choosing the right moment to respond.
I think social media can make this even more difficult. We see people smiling, traveling, achieving their goals, and suddenly, we start comparing our lives to theirs.
That happens more often than we realize. The problem is, we are comparing our real life to someone else's highlights.
That is true. People usually share their best moments, not their hardest ones.
Exactly. So when we compare ourselves to them, the comparison is never fair.
Maybe that is why we sometimes feel unhappy, even when nothing bad has happened.
I think so. Instead of asking, why is everyone doing better than me? Maybe we should ask, what am I grateful for today?
I like that question much more. It shifts our attention from what we do not have to what we already have.
And gratitude has a quiet way of changing our emotions. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because we begin to notice the good things that were already there.
There is another thing I have been thinking about. Why do two people react so differently to the exact same situation?
Because we all see the world differently. Our experiences, our memories, even the way we were raised, all influence how we feel.
So, an event does not create the emotion by itself. The meaning we give to that event matters too.
Exactly. Imagine two people receive the same criticism. One person thinks, I will never be good enough. The other thinks, this is something I can learn from.
The situation is the same, but the emotions are completely different.
That is why our thoughts are so powerful. They quietly shape the way we experience life.
That also means we are not completely powerless. Maybe we cannot control every situation, but we can learn to look at it from a different perspective.
I believe that is one of the most valuable skills anyone can develop. Sometimes, changing the way we think is the first step toward changing the way we feel.
I have noticed something interesting. The days I sleep well, exercise, and eat healthy, I usually feel much calmer.
That is not a coincidence. Our emotions are connected to our bodies more than many people realize.
So taking care of my body also helps me take care of my mind.
Exactly. Sometimes we look for a complicated answer when the first step is actually very simple. Getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, going for a walk, or spending a little time outside.
It is amazing how small habits can make such a big difference.
They really can. Healthy emotions are not built in one day. They are built by the small choices we make every day.
I like that. It reminds me that I do not have to change my whole life overnight.
Exactly. Real progress is usually slow. One healthy habit, one good decision, one day at a time.
And before you know it, those small changes become part of who you are. Do you think we become better at managing our emotions as we get older?
Sometimes, but I do not think it happens automatically. Growing older gives us more experiences, but learning from those experiences, that is a choice.
That makes sense. I know people who stay calm in difficult situations, and others who lose control over very small things.
Exactly. Emotional maturity is something we practice, just like learning a language or playing an instrument.
So every difficult situation is also an opportunity to improve.
I believe so. Every challenge teaches us something, if we are willing to pay attention.
I like that way of thinking. Instead of asking, Why is this happening to me? Maybe we can ask, what can this teach me?
That one question can completely change your mindset. Instead of feeling like a victim, you become a learner.
And learners keep growing, even on their hardest days. There is one question I still have. Can we actually choose how we feel?
Not always. We cannot choose every emotion that appears, but we can choose what we do next.
So, I cannot stop myself from feeling angry, but I can decide how I respond to that anger.
Exactly. That is where real emotional strength begins, not by controlling every feeling, but by controlling our actions.
I think that takes practice. It does not happen overnight.
It definitely does not. But every time you pause before reacting, you become a little stronger. Every time you choose kindness over anger or patience over frustration, you are training your mind.
I like thinking about it that way. It is almost like going to the gym.
Exactly. The more you practice emotional control, the stronger it becomes, little by little, day by day.
That gives me hope, because it means nobody is born with perfect emotional control. It is a skill, and every skill can be improved. I think one of the hardest things is accepting emotions we do not like. We are happy to feel excited or confident, but when sadness appears, we immediately want it to disappear.
That is true, but every emotion has a purpose, even the uncomfortable ones.
Really? Even fear?
Of course, fear can protect us. Sadness can remind us of what truly matters, and guilt can help us become better people.
So the emotion itself is not the enemy. It is what we do with it that matters.
Exactly. Ignoring an emotion or pretending it is not there usually makes it stronger. Understanding it often makes it easier to handle.
I never thought of emotions as teachers.
I like that idea. Some lessons are easy, others are difficult, but every emotion has something we can learn from, if we are willing to listen.
Maybe that is why emotional growth takes time. Not because emotions are complicated, but because understanding ourselves is. The more we talk about this, the more I realize that emotions are not something we need to fear. Maybe we simply need to understand them better.
I completely agree. And I think understanding begins with one simple habit: paying attention.
Paying attention to what?
To yourself. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And then ask, why might I be feeling this way?
Those questions sound simple, but I do not think many people ask them.
That is true. Most of us are so busy that we never stop to listen to ourselves.
Maybe that is why we sometimes feel confused. We expect to understand our emotions without ever taking the time to explore them.
Exactly. Self-awareness is like a mirror. The more clearly you see yourself, the easier it becomes to understand your emotions.
And once you understand them, you stop fighting yourself. You start working with yourself instead. If someone asked you, what is the first step to managing your emotions? What would you say?
I would say, stop trying to change your emotions immediately. Start by understanding them.
That sounds simple, but I think it changes everything.
It really does, because understanding creates clarity, and clarity helps us make better decisions.
So, instead of reacting automatically, we create a small moment to think.
Exactly. Sometimes that small pause is all we need. A few seconds can prevent words we would later regret.
I think everyone has experienced that. Saying something in the heat of the moment and wishing they could take it back.
I know I have. That is why I remind myself, not every feeling needs an immediate response.
I like that. Feel the emotion, understand the emotion, then decide what to do.
That simple habit can improve not only the relationship you have with yourself, but also the relationships you have with everyone around you.
You know, this conversation has changed the way I think about emotions. I used to believe they controlled me. Now, I think they are trying to guide me.
I feel the same way. Emotions are not something we should fear. They are something we should understand.
And understanding them does not happen in one day. It is something we practice, one moment at a time.
Exactly. So the next time you feel angry or anxious or sad, do not be so quick to judge yourself. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me?
You might be surprised by the answer.
We hope today's conversation gave you something to think about and maybe even something to practice in your own life.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. We will see you in the next episode.
Take care and see you next time.
Bye, everyone.